So welcome to the International School Network Roundtable Forum, where we are discussing international school marketing strategies today. I am your host, Richard Gaskell from International Education Solutions, and I'm based in Thailand. It gives me great pleasure to introduce you to our wonderful panelists. I have Amy Gruber based in Portugal, Colleen Fontenue based in Bangkok, Thailand, and Penelope Georgakis based in Dubai. Thank you all for making the time to be here today. I'd like to start by allowing us each briefly to introduce ourselves. So without further ado, Amy, can you kick us off?
Absolutely. Thank you, Richard. My name is Amy Gruber, and my title is Assistant Head for Enrollment Management and Marketing. I'm the founding Admissions and Marketing Director at TASIS Portugal, which is the newest member of the TASIS family of schools. We opened fall 2020, right in the heart of the pandemic. And so that was an interesting experience. And the questions that Richard provided, I think, gave me a really nice opportunity to reflect on the admissions marketing communications, but also what we did with the pandemic when we were faced with that. I have been in the admissions world since 1991. I started in boarding schools in the United States, have also worked in day schools, boarding schools in Canada, and then also spent 19 years at the association level, working with TABS, the Association of Boarding Schools, running all of their international recruitment fairs, among other things, and then also working for SSATB, the Secondary School Admission Test Board, which then, of course, became the Enrollment Management Association. So I had 19 years at the association level, presenting on admissions trends, running workshops for admission officers, and got the opportunity to return to a school in 2019. And so I have really tried to put my money where my mouth is after talking about admissions for 19 years, going back to doing it again. So thank you.
Thanks, Amy. Colleen?
Thanks, Richard. And it's hard to follow that, Amy. I must say, not only did you have to test yourself, you had to go back at possibly the most challenging time. So I look forward to hearing what you have to say. My name is Colleen Fontenue. I am the Director of Admissions and Marketing at KIS in Bangkok. I have been working in schools way less time because my background is a little bit different, but my current role, I oversee all enrollment management, marketing, and I'm actually excited to share that I'll be transitioning into a new role because KIS is opening a second campus about 40 minutes outside of Bangkok. So I'm really excited to do another launch project because that was where I met Amy when I worked on a launch project of an innovative project-based learning school in Sao Paulo, Brazil, Avenues the World School. So that was my introduction into working in education. Prior to that, I spent 15 years in advertising and marketing, working with clients like Microsoft and Apple and Best Buy. I worked in both North and South America. What was really fantastic for me about the opportunity to work in education is that it was the first time I really felt I found my tribe. As a third culture kid growing up in the United States, I was always a little bit too international. Like, why do you speak so many languages? And why is your name French, but you sound American? So I think the international education universe is where I have felt most at home. And I love speaking about it. And I was recently invited to the advisory board of EduTech Asia to be supporting the growth of the organization, but also the identification of what are those topics specifically related to marketing and communications and admissions that are relevant so that other schools of all different sizes can learn. And it's been a real privilege. On the topic of KIS, I've only been here, this is my second year, so I'm relatively new to Asia, but it's a fast-moving market, so certainly lots to share.
Great. Thanks, Colleen. Penelope?
Well, that's also very hard to follow. My name is Penelope. I've been with the Repton family of schools in the UAE for the last 6 years. I'm part of the school operator named Excella. I've been in education for only 6 years, but I've been in the market for 16 years. My background has always been in marketing. I worked in real estate. I worked for brands like Ralph Lauren and Swarovski with great brand equity. So I do understand the positioning. And when I deal with my family of schools, well, they have similar positioning. It's a very competitive market. As you know, and I've had the opportunity to test and trial many things. I work amongst a commercial team, and we have experts in digital marketing and admissions as well. So I have the privilege of working with those colleagues. And we've seen our student enrollment grow substantially in the last 3 years. And I'm proud to say we have over 5,000 students across 4 campuses today. Wow. So thank you for inviting me. I have a lot to learn today, and I'd like to hopefully also impart some of the learnings that we've had.
Great. Well, you guys are clearly the experts on the school marketing side. I'm still learning every day. I've been in the business now some 30 years. I had a very strange entry into education. Went to South Africa when I was 21 to play rugby. And ended up in education, although I was trained in agriculture. Such was the times in South Africa where there was so much need. I worked for Scholastic for 12 years, and that was my first entree into schools. We were doing book fairs and book clubs all across Africa. And then for 12 years, I was with ISC Research, doing a lot of market strategies and feasibility studies, and got to know many schools all over the world, and it was a real privilege. That's how I got to meet Amy at a number of conferences around the world. And then during the pandemic, I was mad enough to leave ISC and start a brand new company called IES, International Education Solutions, where I'm CEO and co-founder. I have 2 wonderful colleagues, and Winnie Chen, who's president of CIO. She owns a group of schools in China, and Howard Stribble, who is academic management across Asia Pacific and Macau. And together we've set up IES to help schools in Asia Pacific, mainly with marketing strategies. And we found a little niche in China marketing solutions, trying to get schools. A shop window in China is a whole other world. Mm-hmm. So that takes up most of my time. But as I said, I'm new to sort of the marketing side in some aspects, and I'm learning every day. So looking forward to talking with you guys today. So the objective of the roundtable discussion is to give our friends on the International School Network some complementary insights into best practice post-pandemic and into current international school thinking around marketing. So let's dive into our questions. And first of all, if I can start with you, Amy, what would you say is the most critical digital marketing tool a school can utilize to bring in more enrollment to their school?
Thank you, Richard. And I thought a lot about this last night. Like politics, all admissions is local. So I think you have to start first by, analyzing your own market and area. What is most important there? So TASIS Portugal is the newest member of the TASIS family of schools. This is our 3rd year of operation. So when we arrived in Portugal, no one knew about us. So really priority number 1 was to get the school found. If they don't know about you, they can't apply. And so it's very easy to get seduced by all of the social media, looking at other schools, Instagram accounts, all that sort of thing, but those all have to point to something. So the first place you really need to start is your website. And I would say that if somebody, is in my position again, launching a new school, that's your number 1 priority. Make sure that your website is amazing. Really focus on content. Content is king right now. And if you do it right, it can be repurposed in so many different places. And then that also involves your SEO, your search engine optimization. I devoted a lot of my marketing budget that first year to the website, to our SEO. We invested heavily in Google Ads, even buying our own name with the real focus on getting TASIS Portugal found. When somebody Googles international schools in Portugal, are they going to find us? will our name come up? And, you know, it's sort of one of the basic things, but I think as we look at and get overwhelmed by all of the options out there in today's market, that's where I really found great success, just starting with the basics of our website. And then also looking at, because Portugal is such a hot destination right now, happily for me, for families to relocate to and to make it their permanent home, understanding the demographics of that group. Where are they coming from? Many are coming from the US, many are coming from the UK, many are coming from South Africa, many are coming from Brazil, of course. And so then, you know, using the resources of a VPN to Google your school's name and see where it comes up in those countries, in those markets, because sometimes people don't know that search engines are different depending on where you're using them. So we spent a lot of time understanding our analytics, really relying on those monthly reports. Not to make my answer too long, but I did have another page. You know, for us in Portugal, and again, going back to understanding your market, Facebook and Instagram are both really good vehicles for us. And some places Facebook is not any longer a vehicle, but here it is in the expat Facebook groups, both for families moving here and then just expats in general, are rich with information. I'm always super proud to see TASIS Portugal parents respond to queries about schools and talk about their own experience with us in a really authentic way. They're also very honest, which I think is important too. I see other school, and I'm on there as a voyeur. You know, if it's expat moms, Cascais, Estoril, I'm on there. The group has accepted me, but I do not feel in any way, shape, or form that it's appropriate ever for me to weigh in, comment. If they want to reach TASIS Portugal, they know how to do it. They're crowdsourcing information from Facebook groups because they want a perspective that's not the official school perspective. I do see admissions people from some other schools weighing in, and I think, ooh, or saying you should call my school. Well, that's not why they're on that particular group.
Right.
We get far more traffic on Instagram when we post things in terms of likes and actual interaction, but I wouldn't give up Facebook right now. So those are the tools for us that have gone really well. Looking at the analytics, you know, when we, in our first year, invested in Google ads, Facebook ads, Instagram ads, it was really encouraging to look at the end of each month at the number of impressions. Short videos for us were always yielded the largest number of impressions. Humor played really well. You know, when we posted a picture of a Dalmatian and said a few spots left, apply now, those kinds of things, you know, we could really see working in terms of the interactions, the click-throughs, the things like that. So that would be my first answer.
Thank you. Colleen, would you like to add?
Sure. Actually, I don't want to add too much because I have a similar answer. I do think it's the website. But in my case, the anecdotal contribution that I could add is that I was able to step into a role for a school that has a good reputation. So our SEO was good. KIS comes up on the first page of search results in Bangkok, which has over 150 international schools registered. So Bangkok is an extremely competitive marketplace. And I was very fortunate that I was able to go to a school that has a strong reputation. That being said, the school had not so long before I joined changed their website and platform. And the Google Analytics were showing a tremendous decline. So I've been working really hard, and we're actually about to launch our new website next week. So it's a busy time. But what I wanted to add about that was I did a lot of research of what are we going to do with our new website and who are we going to go to and who's going to be the partner that we're going to use. And we ended up going with probably the most expensive solution through Final Site. But the reason being was it's so much more than just a website, and it's a tool. So I'm not here to push them. They're not paying me to say that. But what I do want when you're out there looking for a website, if you identify that this is a pain point and you need to do something about it, look at what the functionality of that provider, that partner is going to offer you, because schools have a tremendous amount of information that they need to convey. And Amy, you touched on this point talking about if you work smart, you can multiply that message in a lot of different places, in a lot of different channels. And that was something that we saw was really effective with this tool. You know, you share events and you can add it to an email workflow. So I think for me, it's all about finding digital tools that allow you and your team to work smarter and not harder. And there are a tremendous amount of things out there, and more than one is what we use. But I think that it's absolutely where you must begin, because if you're not showing up on that first search engine of results, as you said, Amy, schools aren't going to be finding you. And that's really the first step, is that awareness.
Yeah, great, thanks. Penelope, you'd like to add?
I mean, everything has been covered, and I'm in agreement. And I think just to conclude on Amy's point is your CRM platform is so important. And we have one where we have programs and resources that really connect marketing and sales. So once you start automating, it really makes things a lot easier, and you can really focus on your strategy and coming up with campaigns that are innovative, that are really going to stand out from the crowd. So I would just say really looking at how to tie everything together. And it's just not one thing in isolation. You have to keep doing everything. You can't let go, of your social media. You can't let go of your email marketing. You can't let go of your website. And it's funny with the website, because it's a constant thing, like, oh, did we update that information? Did we go back in there to add that? And it's a constant thing. So once you start automating, I think it will really free up a lot of time, and then you can do some more new things and try new things.
Great, thanks. Colleen, I'll start with you this time, so we can rotate a little bit. What have you personally found to be the best way to market your school to prospective parents? And can you give us some examples around strategies used and highlight any unique marketing aspects to your own school's location, being Bangkok, that make you kind of look at things differently?
Yeah, sure. I think I'm going to give a little bit of an atypical answer for this, because it's been an interesting experience after the pandemic. And I think that parents have a much different understanding of what their children's experience is and what the roles and responsibilities of a school and of a teacher have become, because they became teachers or educators unwillingly for a good chunk of time. And so I think one of the strategies in particular that we've been really investing in at KIS has been parent education, because we all know that word of mouth is the strongest tool in marketing. But what we realized was that we were getting that support, that word of mouth, but we also needed to invest in reestablishing that trust and that connection with our parents because of this strange time that we had all been through. And I think we talk a lot about the social and emotional needs of the students at the school, and the parents are equally in this deficit position where they also really need to come together and to feel a sense of community. And so this is very, very specific to KIS. We're a mid-sized school, and we've always been known for the community. It's part of what drew me to the school as a parent. It's part of what everyone told me about when I was doing my due diligence and research to ask about it. And it's one of the key words for, our return to normal in our strategic plan is community. And I think that the best way to build a community is to come together. So it is having more events, it is having parent education events, but one of those distinctions that we've done is, if we're going to put together an event for prospects, we should invite our enrolled families. There's no reason why it can't also be a retention strategy or something that we're going to be using for that outcome. And in our case, there's no better way to show your community to also have them in the fold.
Right.
So I think that that's something that was unexpected, and it was based on a lot of feedback and a lot of surveys that we received from families, but it's proven to be very effective. In my second year here, we've decreased our attrition by 2.5%, which for our size is significant, and for really not as much time as perhaps one would like to be seeing some of these changes.
Right. Thanks. Penelope, would like to add?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. And I'm going to go back to something that's tried, tested, and true for us. And that's having an event in school like an open day. It's a hallmark event. And, you know, there's nothing quite like coming into the school and experiencing the day in the life of a Reptonian in our case. And so what we've been doing, and even pre-pandemic, we were doing this, is that we would invite existing families and students, and we would animate the school. So we get to show our facilities, we would run master classes, we would have sporting events, we would have our parent associations there who could speak to prospective families. They would even take them on tour, because, you know, there were times where we would have, you know, high numbers of visitors in one given event. And so it was really everybody, all hands on deck, academics, admissions team members, and those parents as well. So I think that really creates a connection and a feel for the school, and there's nothing quite like it. So definitely coming back to events is really big for us. And we just had one, actually, we have plenty going on at the moment, but we just had one last week. And honestly, apparently the buzz was palpable, and it's great to feel that again. Everybody needs it, and everybody needs that connection. To answer the part of your question about, you know, the location and where we find ourselves, we're in a very saturated market in Dubai, for example. We have 216 private schools. So that's really hard to wrap your head around that. And it's very, very competitive. And what we do is we definitely include location in our recruitment campaigns. Our two schools are actually located in two different communities, about 30 minutes away. And one of them is actually 10 minutes away from our international airport. So when we market to prospective parents and families and students who are boarders, for example, we mention that in our communication so that they know that, you know, they're very in close proximity. Another thing to mention is that Dubai is very much known as a safe city. And so it appeals a lot to boarders coming in from the subcontinent, from the Middle East, and from Asia. So that's something that we do look at kind of promoting and kind of pushing that key message. One of our schools, Repton Al Barsha, is located 10 minutes away from a new shopping destination. So right now we have a digital marketing campaign outdoor happening in the mall. And the CTA there is really, you know, we're only 10 minutes away. And so it does attract families from neighboring communities that are actually also going to the other school that's not too far away. So we don't want to cannibalize, but we offer parents a choice, which is great. And so we definitely highlight that in our campaigns. And our school in Abu Dhabi is located on a man-made island called Reem Island. And for 10 years, we're the only school. And in September, a new school is opening. So we're very, you know, very much of the belief that we really need to push our 10-year anniversary and our academic track record. We have an accreditation that was awarded to us at the beginning of this academic year from the Abu Dhabi Education Knowledge Department, and that's a rating of outstanding. So you better believe it, we have it everywhere. So, you know, want to make sure our families know, hey, you're going to stick with us because we have this track record. You know, we are a community, we are a family, and we've been around for 10 years. So that's the kind of marketing we want to do, and of course it wouldn't work without that sense of community as well.
Great, thanks, Penelope. Amy?
Thank you, Richard. When I arrived in Portugal in August 2019, the marketing plan was relying heavily on the traditional things that you would consider, things like big events, big launch events. We had the Palazzo Hotel, which is famous because that's where Ian Fleming stayed when he conceived of the character of James Bond. And that's where you roll out a big splashy event. That was scheduled for April 2020, rather. And so obviously that had to be canceled because March 13th, 2020, Portugal locked down. like many places in the world. And so all of a sudden, no events. Everyone was working from home. Even our first year, parents weren't in the school until April of our first academic year, because the Ministry of Health, the protocols and guidelines really precluded visitors from coming to school. So it was necessary to completely rethink the strategy. And so my marketing plan then said we were going to first leverage the respected TASIS brand and history. TASIS was the first American boarding school in Europe, founded in 1956. Then introduce the curriculum and its tenets. Parents were all at home watching their kids learn online and being part of that journey. So all of a sudden they were maybe a little more interested in learning about curriculum, because if they're coming to visit and tour, it often defaults into a real estate tour, looking at classrooms and facilities rather than talking about teaching and learning. So it was an incredible opportunity for us to focus on that. Third, make the headmaster accessible. That was a bit easier for me because the headmaster happens to be my husband. So I required him to be accessible for prospective families. And then we introduced the teachers. There's nothing more important in schools than teachers. So every time we had a new teacher hired, our social media featured their bio, their picture. Moving to Portugal with my incredible family. Here's a shot of our little boys in tuxedos at a family wedding. Like we're family too. Make it very personal. And then to engage interested families and maintain a connection with those families who are interested and those who are enrolled. That's really important. Yeah. Each of our last 3 years, 40% of our new families have also been new to Portugal. So many of them, most of them are enrolling from other countries. So in the back of my mind, it's always, are they going to change their mind? Is something going to happen, that precludes them from moving to Portugal? Or was this a pipe dream? They came on vacation here once, loved it, and all of a sudden, especially with the pandemic and related things, this isn't going to happen. So we focused a lot on engagement, keeping the parents connected with the school, introducing them to our parent association welcome committee. During lockdown, we launched a really low tech, and part of its charm was that it was low tech, done on Zoom, Thursday night event called Coffee with Keith. Keith is the headmaster. And he was legendary for his jokes. And he would joke with people. We had families attend, and that was their Thursday night date night because they were on lockdown. So they would joke that they opened their bottle of wine, they were ready for Coffee with Keith. People put in all of their questions. He had different guests on. I emceed it, and there was always a little banter back and forth. And it was something that I think helped establish our community as a really close, friendly community. Those recordings are on our YouTube channel. They're still there. And I'm amazed by the number of prospective families who still watch them dating back to 2020. After we emerged from lockdown, we tried to keep it going, but there was no appetite for it. The audience was quite literally a captive audience because they were on lockdown. And so I think that was one of the things that we'll remember most fondly about connecting with our community during a time of world crisis, and having them think that the school was really played a pivotal role in sort of looking ahead to a different time and being part of a group.
Yeah, it was a unique time for sure. Penelope, if I can start with you, what strategies do you use to ensure prospective parents, families understand your school's value, competitive competitive advantage?
One thing that we do consistently, and I think the word is consistently, is to really celebrate milestones as a community. So along with teachers and parents and students, and really find moments where we can, communicate, right, today we, there's a prize giving, these are the stars, and this is, what they've achieved. If we had, for example, launched something that was innovative and we were the first to do it and the school was recognized, then we will definitely create an opportunity to create content, right? So it's important to be able to take those photographs, to get those video testimonials from the stakeholders, and to be able to publish them on the various platforms. We are very good at sending out a monthly roundup to prospective parents, and we really try to be fair and highlight the main milestone successes across all the schools. And again, it's about consistency and making sure that we as a community kind of shout about it and not shy away from it. Which leads me to, again, and we mentioned this before, word of mouth. There's nothing like that. It's the most impactful, I would say, especially because, parents will, ask their community members, be it their friends, be it, family members, they'd go to them first when it comes to a school. And there's nothing like, positive kind of a word of mouth. They're a bit competitive here. Oh, your school does that? Oh, well, we were the first ones to do it years ago. So it is quite interesting dynamic, but it does kind of forge even more that sense of community. So I would say, let them brag about it and make sure that prospective families here see it and hopefully live it when they come in and do experience those moments when we have those events. And we do open our doors to prospective families. We run events now. We've always had webinars. We would send it to them. Whoever was in our pipeline, we would make sure if we have, for example, plays or theater productions, we invite the ones that are in that particular part of the funnel, and we say, come in and come and see our play, our Lion King production. So I think it's really, identifying consistently all of those wonderful moments in our school life, everyday life, and making sure that we convey it to prospective families.
Right. Great, thanks. Colleen, can you add?
Yes, actually, I was reflecting on, as everyone was sharing, on some of those things that I've learned from all these years in the pandemic. But one thing that I think I learned at my previous school at Avenues was this: the goal is to communicate your curriculum in a way that everybody understands it, and that was both the most important thing at my previous school and today at KIS. KIS is a full IB school. It's the only one in Bangkok to offer all 4 IB programs. And there's a lot of learning that needs to go into understanding what that means and unpacking that. There are way more, I think, misconceptions. And I think we spend a tremendous amount of time demystifying the curriculum than anything else. But in terms of, how do you go about doing that? One of the things that I've been working to build is a video library that will capture and educate on all the different components, all the different things, and using that video library a bit as a concierge of where you can find all your information. And once you have spoken to the family, so this is, before there's the strategy of before they're in the funnel, in which all these videos and all this content is useful because it's going to be published across many platforms. But once they've directly engaged with you, you can't assume that they've seen all of that and they've done their research. And being able to create custom communication where I spoke to this family and they have a primary child and a middle schooler, and this one's interested in soccer and this one loves science. And great, I go to my video library and I say, okay, here are the 4 or 5 videos that are really tailored to what you spoke about. And I think that there's so much to be said for that, because the family feels heard. Oh, you really paid attention to everything I said. I like you guys, you listen. And that's such a characteristic of especially millennial parents, needing to be seen and heard. And that's something that everybody, I think, needs and wants. But second, you're delivering that specific content that addresses all of their needs and wants. And there's a tremendous amount of information and reassurance that goes along with that. And then you've also introduced to them this way to find out more, this channel where if they want to keep digging and if they want to keep finding out more information, there it is. And it goes back to that concept of working smarter and not harder. Yes, it is a tremendous investment to script and interview and document and do these things. And we're not even where I'd like to be. So there's still work to be done. But once you have that, or as you're building this, you have something that's really customizable, because it's going to cover all potential questions that a family could ask. So I think that that's a strategy that I will carry with myself no matter what school I'm at.
I can speak to the IB and the Chinese families that we speak to. It seems that the IB is something quite alien to them, and we have to go back to basics, because in China itself, it's just not a popular curriculum. They like the academic rigor of the exams with A levels and AP, etc. Amy, would you like to add?
Thank you, Richard. What Penelope said about word of mouth is, I think we all know that's true. Years ago, Richard and I collaborated on 2 global surveys of international school admission professionals. And in both surveys, the number one source of parent referrals, of student referrals rather, was from current parents, as reported by international admission professionals globally. And the number 2 was from past parents. And I think we all know that, but it's actually quantified in 2 surveys that ISC Research and the Enrollment Management Association collaborated on. And so, amplifying that is a really useful and powerful tool. And it's also free. In New York Times, not free, but it's free. What Kayleen said about content is really important, and being efficient. Our blogs are really popular, the headmaster's blog and the academic team blogs, which have been authored now by over a dozen different teachers and administrators. But if they were just a one-off, publish it on the website, hardly anybody would read them. Because nobody's really going into the blogs deep in there, finding the one that's on the topic. So if it's written about understanding middle schoolers, Keith has some humorous ones about middle schoolers. We post those on social media with links back to, with a funny tagline with links back to the blog. Ones that are about teaching and learning, we'll post on our LinkedIn channel. And have our teachers who authored them also post on their professional channel. Hey, I just wrote this, blog on the science of learning, or whatever it is. But any content that you can create should really be used across multiple channels, your website, your social media channels, in our weekly newsletters. If somebody's written a blog, we also feature that in our weekly newsletters, or in our online parent community. We have we have a great parent community powered by Toucan Tech. So I'd just say those are great strategies. But for us, our school tours and the highly personalized admissions process is probably our most important marketing tool. We spend a lot of time on tours and visits. 2 hours is a common investment for us to meet with a family. Often the parents come first. You guys know this, and they bring their child. Then maybe they bring grandma or grandpa, and we invest that time. The downside to that is we've had to be very mercenary in saying we only have time to do visits for families who are looking for September 2023, because Portugal's, as I said, such a hot destination. We have a lot of tire kickers. Our first year and a half, we didn't turn any appointments away because we were a new school launching. But what I have to show for that is a database full of dead inquiries. People who were thinking about moving to Portugal, or maybe it's going to be in 2025 when our kids are this age. And I get it. They want to look ahead and do their research, but our website's great. Our social media channels are great. So you can watch the videos, you can learn a lot about the school, but we need to invest the time in the families who are most likely to enroll in our next school year. So that's where we've really prioritized things. And in every faculty meeting, we get some airtime to provide an update Right now we're providing updates on re-enrollment. So faculty know if they've been asked to write a teacher recommendation, let us know in admissions, hey, this family might be relocating. Because many times they haven't told us yet, so that we have that information. We thank faculty. We read quotes from parents who visited and said, my gosh, I stopped by Mr. Bo's science class. It just blew me away. So giving faculty that kudos, but also the information. Here's our goal. Here's how far away we are from our goal. Here are the hardest classes for us to enroll right now. It really makes them feel well-informed.
Right.
And then also partnering with the finance department so that the faculty understands that this is tuition-based budgeting. And, you know, salary increases, and they're getting a nice one this year, come directly from those tuition dollars. And their participation in the program helps us get the best fit students and families with that. So that's a big part of our strategy as well.
Great. Amy, in all your years, what would you say the biggest marketing mistake that schools make, overlook, and particularly post-pandemic?
Post-pandemic, I think it's going back to business as usual without reflecting on the things that you did to survive and thrive. I think a lot of schools, we actually opened with more than twice the number of students we anticipated opening with, and did all that enrollment during the pandemic. And it was the time we spent with families. It was talking about curriculum. It was being constantly available to answer questions. And so I think for us, that was something that we worked hard to maintain and say, yeah, we could always be doing more. We could always be doing more with drip campaigns, which take a while to set up. We could always be enhancing other things, but the developing the relationships is the most important.
Yeah, great. Colleen, what would you say some of the biggest mistakes that schools are making?
I think, well, I can't say schools so much as I think admissions and marketing not being more integrated with the school and the departments and really engaging in cross-departmental meetings. So you talked about the enrollment, Amy, and I think that's something that I'm very intentional with our retention meetings of pulling in people from different divisions, from different departments, and trying to triangulate data, including finance. So finance sits on the retention committee and we say, okay, we heard that this family might be moving and, you know, are they in arrears? All these things, they tell you a story. And if you don't have that triangulation of information and of data, you're not working as efficiently or as strategically. And there might be things that you wouldn't spend your time on had you only known all these other components. And so I think just today I had a meeting about an event that we're having in 2 weeks, and I shared our secret shopper competitive analysis of tuitions. And I showed teachers, this is where KIS sits on this spectrum of tuitions. And look at the map of all of the schools. And I was really nervous to do that at first. I thought I might get in trouble by someone, that I was sharing things that I shouldn't share. And it was amazing the feedback that I received from the teachers. We did it for open house with the secondary teachers, and they were really eating this up. Our resignation surveys and the data and where did they go and why, what was their reason? They were really, really interested. And I learned a valuable lesson that they want to be more informed and involved than perhaps we realize, but they just don't have access to the information. And so I think that learning to connect more frequently and get updates, because that's a tremendous mistake that happens and has happened not that long ago for me, of admissions saying something that's no longer happening in secondary. And I knew because I have kids in secondary. So that connection, that communication is so important. And Amy, I love that you guys have time during faculty meetings. I think I'm going to make that request, because if that's one surefire way to ensure that you have that communication across departments.
Nice, thanks. Penelope?
I agree with both Amy and Colleen, and I think that what really needs to be paramount is the customer experience, because that's really going to reflect the brand experience. And so we need to understand that customers have needs and they have very high expectations. And that is something everybody has to fall in line with. Hence what you talk about, bringing in the academics, the finance teams, everybody, because this is definitely a group effort. So I would definitely say that we also need to keep doing the things that we did during that pandemic. So when I say flexibility, offer one-on-one virtual tours. Yes, they can come on site, but keep doing that. Make sure you keep doing that. Make sure you keep offering webinars. Online payments is something that we offer now. We didn't have that before. So how are we going to keep innovating? Are we going to put up a new, a QR code where they can make a payment immediately? So think about all the things that we can do to make that experience a flawless one, a seamless one. So also one thing not to forget is to keep updating your website as well. We talked about that earlier, but we had to go through and remember to remove all those COVID protocols, or to even refresh our virtual tour, because we added new facilities. And Repton Al Barsha with a beautiful outdoor gym, and we're like, right, we got to do a new virtual tour. This is a key selling USP for us. So we got to make sure that we update that. The other thing that we've seen in this part of the region, which is very interesting, is going back to what we talked about, audience segmentation in your target group, is seeing the interest that's coming in from Eastern European countries and the Far East in this market. So we work a lot with relocation agents, international ones. We work with estate agents. We also look at working with student placement agents like Carfax Education, for example. So this is really, really important to kind of take the time, because it takes time to communicate with them. And then what we do is we help create content with them that is very much in that language, that native language, that they can therefore post on their socials, on their website. We actually facilitate webinars. There's a translator on those webinars to make sure that they get to meet our academic staff and our admissions teams. And another one I would say is that we've been working closely with corporates that have international presence in the UAE and who are relocating families here. So again, these are opportunities that we see, and I think other schools will probably maybe are doing that. If not, it's something they should be doing to really make sure that they kind of seize that opportunity. And I would say last but not least, I'd like to end on the fact and we keep, it's a recurring theme here, but we got to keep nurturing our existing families. Honestly, we can't take it for granted. We can't take for granted that they're going to be loyal. I certainly can speak of, certainly speak of this market, that loyalty is something that's being tested all the time. There are always new schools that are opening, that are branded, that have maybe a track record back in the UK or in the United States. So let's not take for granted on our laurels. We need to make sure that, that is very much, at the top of mind, like we said, with all stakeholders across the organization. So.
And it's still a very attractive industry for those brands. I mean, in America and particularly the UK, that trend is not going to stop. We've heard of in Hua Hin, I live 3 hours south of Bangkok. We've heard of a big new British boarding school that's going to be opening here and taken everybody by surprise. But it's still a trend. I think it's going to continue for another 10, 20 years at least. So, yeah. Well, that wraps up the edition of this ISN roundtable. I hope you have found it interesting listening. I'd like to thank all our panelists. And I look forward to seeing all of you out there on the circuit someday soon. Now that we can do back-to-back, we can go back to face-to-face conferences at last. So thank you for all your time. All right.